Hello, everyone. This is Margaret Manning with 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. And one of the things that we care about in the community is our independence. And that takes the form of independence to find love again after perhaps a life of disappointments or divorce, or finding ourselves on our own after 60. And my guest today, Lisa Copeland, is a dating coach, and she specializes in women over 50. She is an author for the Huffington Post. She has she's written several books herself, and she has been through an online dating journey, several divorces, and is eminently qualified to talk about this subject. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Margaret. It's so nice being here. Thank you for inviting me.
Tell us about your journey to becoming a dating coach.
I would love to. I was married 24 years the first time, and my then husband, who is the father of my children, and we just grew separately. We grew apart, and growing apart meant we ended up divorced. So after my divorce, I took about a year to heal because I feel that healing after the end of a relationship is super, super important. A lot of people relationship jump, meaning they hop from one to the other. And when you do that, you're not giving yourself the time to really reestablish who you are. So I took that year, and I was in my 40s then, and I found myself with friends who didn't know single people. And I ended up going online. And it was crazy because I did some of the dumbest things ever. I posted a picture of my dad with me online. Men would say, is that your ex-husband? And I actually met a man on a different continent, and I wrote things in my profile that were not appropriate because I thought they were romantic, but not good to do. So, and also men weren't asking me out for second dates. I didn't understand why. Felt like such rejection because we as women feel very rejected by that. And I felt that, I was struggling. I was really struggling. It was very painful. I did end up in a relationship with a man I met online for 2.5 years. And as he walked out the door, he said to me, I ended it, but he said, Lisa, you don't know how to let a man be a man. And I thought, he's crazy. I get along with men really well. And I just kind of blew the comment off. And then I went back online. I took some time to heal. I went back online and eventually met my second husband. And we had tremendous, tremendous chemistry and, the attraction factor that everyone's looking for. But the chemistry was so strong that it was only a physical chemistry. It wasn't a friendship beneath it. So within 2 years of marrying, we were divorcing. And he too said to me, Lisa, you don't know how to let a man be a man. And that's when I thought, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong.
Something message here.
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
So I came out of that divorce feeling like I'd really failed. And I thought, who's going to want me? I've been divorced twice. And if you really listen to people, a lot of people have been divorced twice, 3 times, 4 times. And I went looking for a coach, but coaches were pretty young. And at that time, they were like in their 20s or 30s. And there's a couple now, they're in their 40s. And there's some men that are close to 50, if not 50, but I couldn't tell my stuff to a man. It was like, you can't talk about your body to a man. It's just something you just wouldn't feel comfortable with. And then the younger coaches were like my kids' age. And I thought, I can't talk to them about any of this. So I went and started researching. And one of the first places I did start was this business about, Lisa, you don't let a man be a man. And this is very huge for our age group. But I figured out all the tools that were needed. Everything I researched, I began to use. I figured out what worked, what didn't work. And what happened was I started getting second dates. I started having a great time dating. I didn't dread it anymore. It was fun. I did end up in a relationship, and we can talk about this too. Over 50s dating is very, very different than dating in your 20s. in the way that relationships go.
What you've just described is the journey that so many women over 50, 60 take. And by the way, dating over 50 is one animal, but when you get to 60, it becomes a very different category. So I'm going to ask you some specific questions later about women over 60, because there's something about that psychological number of 60 that does create maybe a different approach. But I wanted to go back to something that's really been on my mind since I interviewed Suzanne Braun-Levine a few weeks ago. She, as you may know, is the first editor of Ms. Magazine. Great woman's advocate throughout the last, 6 decades. And a lot of women in the community were raised, through those decades of women's lib and independence and, doing things for ourselves. And I would love your insights on this, how that way that we were raised as women in our 60s now has impacted or impacts the dating opportunity for us.
Well, I think all of us grew up, as you said, with women's lib. And what happened with women's lib is it was fantastic for getting us into the workplace and for getting finding our places in the things we could do. And we got to use our brains again. But what also happened was in relationships, it took us against our natural DNA patterns between men and women, and we're fighting those. And that is why 2 men when they left, said, Lisa, you don't know how to make me feel like a man, or you just don't know how to do that. And that is because we didn't. We were taught, walk over men. You can do it as well. You can do it better, and you don't need a man. And now we're coming into this time in our lives where we do want men in our lives, and we don't know how to relate to them because we weren't taught that. We just were not taught how to relate to men, except to kind of compete with them, do better than them, and pretty much show them up.
It's really funny. I want you to continue this. You just reminded me of a sign, and it just came into my mind that I had on my desk when I was in the working world, and it said, "A woman has to try twice as hard to be considered half as good as a man. Fortunately, that's not too difficult." and we used to laugh at the fact that we were getting ahead of men, that we were somehow competing and succeeding. So, okay, workplace was great, but tell us a little bit more about how that imbalanced the relationship between, the strong man, the receiving woman, and that alpha mode of relating.
I even believe the workplace is not great anymore because what's happening is women are finding with this competition with men, they can't get into partnership with men to work together or to live together. We never were taught how to become partners. I think that we thought we did it so well that it was pretty much our way or the highway. And so my main thing is helping women get into partnership with men in both places. And what's happened is being a dating coach, what's interestingly happened is I do attract a lot of women like this because, we attract what we did and what we overcame, and we could teach that very well. So I have women who are CEOs that I had one who had to meet a very high-powered man, and in the past, her relationship with him was painful. She could not get the deal sealed. It was like fighting because she was competing. She was going in with facts and figures, going in the man suit, the black man suit, the heavy glasses, the accessories that just made her look like a female man. And nothing got done. So she took what I taught her with dating. She went into her meeting and she asked him the 4 magic words. Could you help me? Within 5 minutes, the deal was sealed. And ever since then, he's done everything possible to help her. So we don't have to step on men. We don't have to dumb down. We don't have to be doormats. We just have to come into this natural female role that we've forgotten how to do. And that is getting into partnership with a man and letting him help us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So, as I started off by saying at the very beginning that one of our goals in this community is to become independent. And I think it's this misinterpretation of what independent means, that it doesn't mean that it's at the expense of, receiving from people rather than trying to do and give all the time.
One of the biggest problems we have is We were taught to give, to nurture, and overgive, and we became these huge super women. Well, overgiving is a male quality. Women are the receivers, and it's a whole different way of thinking. And a lot of women, when I write about this, get very angry with this topic. We've actually all lost because of this. We've lost our femininity, which is our power. We became masculine females, which actually is not a powerful place to be unless it's like punching guys on the way up, versus working together. And we've lost something in all this.
I think that's a really interesting point, this thing about the feminine power to transform, a meeting into something else. That, in fact, David Wygant, who's another dating coach that I think he said exactly the same thing from the male's perspective, is that, just don't wait to say something, but be respectful. What did he say? Make the man feel honored. And some of these words are like, oh my God, why would I want to make a man feel honored? He's supposed to be the warrior coming after me. Why should I be flirty and seductive? But I think you have a point of view about that. Could you share your thoughts on that?
I do. Well, what needs to happen in the beginning of a relationship is if you're going to get involved with an alpha man. Now, this is if you want to be involved with an alpha man, not a beta man. You do need to show him respect. And in return, he will cherish you and do everything possible to make you happy. Look at my client, the CEO. She respected his opinion. She asked him for his opinion. He turned around and did everything possible to make that deal work. Whereas in the past, when she competed with him, he would just compete. Men don't want to compete with women in relationships. They do that with other men. They want to have that emotional connection with women, not a competition with them.
So I think this is a great topic, and we could go on a little bit longer with it. I mean, I think the most important thing is that what you're describing is a shift in mindset, that we've got to let some of the control go and, let our feminine self come out. And I know I've heard a lot of women say, well, I may appear to be very strong and aggressive, but actually I do want to be looked after and nurtured. So I think what you're saying is actually, let the true you come out and make that partnership connection.
Definitely. If you can find it, the key is refinding it and recognizing that it is so much more powerful than the masculine female is.
Yeah.
That is not a powerful place to be over the long haul because you can't get the cooperation of men that way.
Yeah. So let's move on. I have another question for you. I mean, a lot of women over 50, not just over 60, but will say that, they're just not having any success with dating. And you've actually, mentioned that in your own life. And if you could just chat with us about some of the misconceptions that we might have about the dating game right now that are preventing us from having successes with dating. What is the mindset we have to change?
I think number one is women think they should know how to date. Yet most women did not date when they were younger. The way they came into relationships was they hung out and they fell into the relationship.
That's true.
So they're missing the tools and the skills. And that is what I teach women are those tools and those skills because it is a learned factor. I think that in your 50s and 60s, it is very common, the same dating issues. The first mindset is we go online and we see people that to us look like our daddies and granddaddies, as one client put it. We want to be dating George Clooney, who, by the way, really doesn't like long-term relationships, which is kind of typical of this age group, though. Over 50.
So short-term with George Clooney would be okay.
Short? No, I don't know.
Maybe not.
He's good to look at.
He is good to look at.
But I think there has to be more. So
so we look for George Clooney in all our relationships.
Yes, we do. We also date like we're 20. That has to do with dating like we're 20. Number one, the reason we feel so bad about ourselves is we compare ourselves to our 20-year-old self because that's the last time we were out on the market for many women. Instead of coming into this place of our awesomeness of who we are, and this is part of what I teach women, this is the basic foundation, is coming into the greatness of who you are. Because otherwise, when we don't feel good, we give our power away to men, worrying, do they like me? Do they like me? Versus do I like them? And the other thing is about online dating, which is where most women meet men, is the one dimensionality of it, where women do think that the men on there look like their daddies and granddaddies. But in person, they may not look this way. Somebody that you see online and go, no way to, you might see in person on the street and go, there's his personality. I can see who he really is. So we don't give enough men a chance is really what it is.
And I think also we expect this instant chemistry with people. You know, we expect that, I mean, you look at a profile and you say, there's no chemistry, click. And that's, you know, you just immediately move on to the next one. So we've got, you know, we think about chemistry has to be instant. We want George Clooney the beautiful people to be in our lives only. We don't know how to date, which is, you're absolutely right. The skills, I mean, you know, you just fell into situations with friends when you were younger. You didn't, so, you know, and we can talk a bit more about online, but I think that you're right. That is a very good that is a good, safe place to go for women over 50.
Well, it's about the only place where people over 50 congregate. Like when we were younger, we met in school, whether it was high school or college, and maybe the beginning work thing. Today, young people go to clubs. We don't go to clubs and bars usually. We don't feel as comfortable, at least in America, where you are, maybe more people our age do, but here most people don't.
It's the same.
Yeah. So the only place to go is online.
Yeah. So we'll talk about online in a minute, because I know I've got some specific questions there. But, but I do have one question that always comes up, and I just would like your insight on this.
Sure.
And it's very simple. Why do older men put on their profile looking for a younger woman? What's going on there?
Well, I do believe that older men have this idea that the women they look at, in fact, many of them I've spoken with have said the women look so old. So for them, we look like their mommies and grandmommies, and for us, they look like our daddies and granddaddies. So there's this kind of thing going on. Whereas people in their 30s and 40s look like the people we remember. So I think that a lot of men, they look at those younger women and they go, yes, this is who I remember. But they too, if they met a woman in real life, like we would, they would give her a chance. Another thing is, it goes a little bit back to the alpha female. We've forgotten how to appreciate men. Younger women are more appreciative of an older man, but a lot of younger women don't want the older men. And there's a lot of men our age that do want women our age. They want them within 3 to 5 years because we share history together. You know, Go ahead.
Yeah, no. It's such a common thing. I suppose you're right that a lot of younger women are more appreciative of an older man if he's got money or power or something that's attractive. But it's just like eye candy that once you get past that, you know, you can then, bring out your real qualities. But I mean, what do you know? I mean, give us some tips about things that we don't know about men that we should that you've learned in your experience.
Sure.
What do men want?
Okay. Well, we're talking alpha men. Now, beta men are different. Alpha men. Number one, they do want to be appreciated and thanked. And we got used to not doing that for our husbands, you know, when we were all married, and we stopped. The other thing is they don't want to be criticized. When a man is willing to do anything for you, I mean anything, his goal, especially these older men, are to make you happy. When you criticize these men, when we criticize, and we criticize, they won't do it again. I mean, they'll say, I'm done. I don't need to do this for you. And they just move on. The other thing about men is they don't want you to make them into your pet project. You know, change their clothes, change their hair, either like a man for who he is or don't. Now, there are some clothing things later down the road you could possibly have some influence in, but it's not the thing to go into a first date and go, you know, I have a suggestion for you. Those shoes, that kind of thing. So I would say those are the three main things about men to know. And there's plenty more, you know, which I teach women. But those are the top three things that can help women right away.
So we've got all these tips now. We know how to talk to a man. We know how to be watching out for these things. But where do we go to find them?
Well, online dating is the best.
Because, let's go there.
Said, it's the place where most men and women congregate over 50. The second best place is asking who I call your dating fairy godmothers. And those are your friends, your colleagues. anyone that do you know someone single? And you can't ask them once because it doesn't stick in their head. You kind of have
Just
to
keep
bring it
going
back.
back.
Now, a lot of married people really don't know single people. They have like one or two friends that are single, and so they don't know it. So really the biggest thing comes to you figuring out how to meet men. The other way to do it is to look on Facebook at the people you went to high school with, or go to your high school reunion and see who's single again. Go to your college reunion, same thing. The real key is getting yourself out there. If you want to meet men in what's called the organic way, which so many women say, I need to meet in the organic way. But the problem is they don't know how to flirt with them. They don't understand men. So it really is equally as hard as it is online because of that. But if you really want to go in the organic way, the key is to get yourself out there and think of activities that you love, because you want to have the passion build back inside of you. We as women turn like pretzels to please men we like, and we give ourselves up. But the thing that men are so attracted to in women is their passion.
Right.
So get out there and play tennis. Now, I will admit you are not going to find a man at the knitting club, but find some things that you really like doing. And you never know, you could run into someone that way. It's just thinking of places where men could be, a cooking class, these are all listed in that free report. I have tons and tons of places. A dog park, get a dog and go to a dog park with the dog, or borrow your friend's dog. All kinds of places. Men are really everywhere. Talk to them in line at Starbucks when you're getting your coffee. No matter what age they are, get back in practice talking to men. That's a big thing women aren't doing. You can't just suddenly date and start talking to men. You need to know how to talk to men.
And that's really true. And they look at you with such astonishment sometimes, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm quite chatty, anyway, so I'll stand in line and say, what's good here? Have you ever tasted the chocolate muffins here, or whatever? And it's always just a really natural. But I think you've touched on the most important thing, which is just do things you love. And if you love, besides knitting maybe, but, go
to... do it too.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, one idea I know you had when we go to a sports event, because, sports events are great because everybody's yelling and screaming and totally relaxed. And, there's always people passing food around. And it's, that's certainly in the States, this is very, very common. But let's go to online dating.
Sure.
Because I actually, I'm a bit of a virgin with online dating myself, so I could do with some hints. So tell us the range of options that are out there, paid and unpaid, and just some advice and recommendation.
I am one of those dating coaches that believes unpaid sites are fine too. There's a lot of people that don't believe in that, but I think especially for our age group, they're fine. There's a lot of men who are on both paid, the same men on both the paid and the unpaid. You're going to find them on both.
Okay.
So the nice thing about the unpaid is everybody can write everybody. On the paid sites, you have to be a paid member to write. So a lot of women feel really rejected when men don't write them back, which, by the way, is not the best thing to do, writing to men. Most men will write you back to be nice, but it usually fizzles because the attraction has to start on his side. Okay. It really does. A guy has to be interested in you first. And the interesting thing is for us, we may not be that interested in a guy, but once we get to know him, men grow on us. And then we start thinking the guy who wasn't so cute is really cute because we get to know their personality.
So, quick question. So, you said not to make the first communication. What about the features like the winking and just flirting?
So fine.
That's okay.
Flirting is fine, but the real actual email, unless it's extremely flirty, like "I think you're really cute." What are you doing on here? Or something like that. You can't say, I'm interested in you. I like your profile or something. Okay. That is, like I said, they'll respond, but it usually fizzles. Men have to go by that attraction factor first. That is just, they're very visual. So, and that's why men are dating younger women because they don't get it. But if they met them in real life, they would, they usually lose interest in a younger woman. A lot of them, they get, they don't have to share the same history. Okay. So the other thing about online dating is your profile. Most women and, well, men usually write books and tell you what they don't want and what they do want. And women usually write the most boring profiles like, I love knitting. I love being in my garden. I love cutting flowers. So it's getting rid of the eyes. It's boring. Think about it. I like to think of online dating as a virtual cocktail party. And when you're at a cocktail party, you don't stand and talk to a man and go, I love gardening. I love pink flowers. You kind of have to
No.
make it, your profile sort of needs to be a little story-ish, like a little story. I teach women how to do this to make it into the story that intrigues a man to want to get to know them. And your picture's really important. I've had clients that have never gotten hits over 60 posting the pictures they posted. They were horrible pictures.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. So when we work together, I tell women it's okay to get a professional photograph if it's natural looking, but don't get it super retouched or anything because you want to look how you are. But you want pictures of you that are flattering, that show a man who you really are, because they're either going to like you or not like you. And you really don't want men that don't like you in your life. You want the men that like you. Yet we try and turn those men that don't like us into men that will like us. And it's not going to get anywhere. It's not going to get anyone anywhere.
Do you lie about your age?
Never. No. Because when you go in, one of the biggest complaints both men and women have is one, people don't look like their pictures. And also that people lied about their age. And if you're really looking for a relationship, again, you want to be with someone that's going to want to be with you at the age you're at. And you don't want to start off lying because then they'll go, oh my God, if you lied about this, what else are you going to lie about?
Yeah.
So I think it's better, be honest, show yourself for who you are. Take a full body shot. If you're heavy, you either are going to, they're not going to like you any better when they meet you. They have to.
Yeah.
It's, again, kind of like false advertising. And men get really angry at that. And women do too. When a guy shows up and he's 600 pounds, and in his picture, and you see just his head and he's got it cut in the right place. And women do that too. So it goes back to wanting the people that want us. We stop trying to go for the people that don't want us.
So you've got wonderful ideas and coaching opportunities, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows where to go to find you. I'm going to put your website address up again because you do individual coaching.
Yes.
You do remote coaching, like just telephone and Skype.
Remote. I also do group coaching too. There's a benefit to the group as well as one-on-one.
That's great. And I know that the first call with you is a complimentary call.
Yes.
And I really think that's a great idea to have a few minutes just to chat with you. You are infectious. I love your energy. But a couple of more things, just real quickly.
Yes.
$1,000 question, because I think this is two different opinions. Who should make the first move? Some people say in the community that they don't think it's their job to make the first move, that they wait for a man to reach out to them, either call them or notice them somewhere. And I know a lot of people feel opposite, that women should feel free making the first move. What's your opinion on that?
Well, it goes back to what I said before about online dating. You cannot write the first email. Now, that doesn't mean you can't lead a man to asking you out. Men are very, very fearful of rejection. They're the ones getting the most rejected. We think we're rejected. They're rejected so much more than we are. But the way to do it, you can do it playfully, like, hey, if you ever feel like going to coffee, here's my number. What you're doing is you're offering the suggestion, but you're letting him come back and do the asking.
Yeah, just give your card.
He has to be the one asking. If you say, hey, do you want to go out for coffee? A guy will probably say, yeah, sure. But that doesn't mean he's attracted to you. And that doesn't mean he doesn't think of you as a friend. In fact, if he was attracted to you, he would probably ask you out, but not necessarily because men are afraid to. So I teach women how to give men signals so that men will want to ask them out. But I still contend that is much harder for us to do. We're not in practice of that. It's much harder to do in the real world. It's a little bit easier to do online with the winks and those kinds of things.
So you have given us so much advice and so many tips. I'm really excited. And I'd love to get you back on again and go through this in a little bit more detail. But I just wanted to make sure we highlighted the fact that you have just released or about to release a new book. And it's called The Winning Dating Formula for Women Over 50. Yes. And tell us about it. When is it coming out? How can we get it? And what's it a little bit about?
Well, there's so many, like I said, so many dating coaches out there talking about dating younger, in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. And that's a very different time in our lives. Those are life cycle event times. In our 50s, we are usually not real clear on why we want relationships. And because of that, we're dating like we did in our 20s, looking for George Clooney to have babies with. So dating in your over 50 is definitely a different way to date. And that's why I wrote the book, because I wanted women to understand that they need specific tools and skills to date at this age. So the book is going to be coming out the week of October 8th. And if you sign up for my free report, you'll get my blog. And lots of women actually have found men just from my blogs and other women I coach.
Great stories.
And I give great advice on those blogs. And so those blogs will come to you. And in that blog, I always have a letter. And in that letter, you can find out how to get this book for free for 4 days in October on Amazon. So the best thing to do is to sign up for that free report and then start watching next week when my blog comes out, and then other emails will come out also for getting it for free.
Okay. So what are the dates again that will be free?
It's the 10th and 11th of October, and the 30th and the 31st.
Oh, perfect. So there's 2 periods of time. That's fantastic.
And if you like a hard copy book, that will be up there. It's not free, but you can buy a hard copy book and Amazon will send it to you.
So this is a free download, a free Kindle download.
Yes, and anybody can download Kindle to any technological apparatus they have for free.
That is great. Well, thank you so much for writing that book, and I can't wait to read it and get all the tips that I know are going to help to work. And I just am so thrilled that you've taken the time to talk to us today, Lisa. Thank you again for it. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, it's so my pleasure, Margaret. And I had so much fun. And I would love to come back anytime. We can talk about things that are deeper that maybe your audience wants to know more about.
Well, I would love you to just take 2 minutes and tell us anything that you think is good advice for us. Last minute shout out to those 33,000 women over 60. What would you say for them, for the dating?
Get out there, and instead of thinking in the first 15 minutes you have to figure out if this guy's your next husband, you don't. Get out there and do what I call date to date. Just go and have fun with men. And you can end up over 50s dating. The great thing about it, whether you're 50, 60, or 70, is you can also have men as friends while you're looking for the right guy, and you can still get that male companionship. It's like we feel we have to be either getting married to them or they're not right. And there is a gray area in between, and you'll have fun. And being around male energy is really, really important, for getting your game on for dating.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you again for being here. I look forward to reading your book and having you back on in the future. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks, Lisa.